just wanted to continue with our read aloud of the book, The Magic School Bus, a science chapter book, The Giant Germ. So today we're going to continue on with the story and move on to chapter 2. But before I move on to chapter 2, I want to go back and rethink and draw back on some memories of what chapter 1 was about. So, what I recall from chapter 1 is an introduction of the story about one of the main character in the story, which is Keisha, and there she is right here on the front cover, and also Miss Frizz, their teacher. It also involves a magic school bus that Miss Frizz drives the students around to go into explore different types of science things, subjects throughout the story, terms, vocabs that were introduced in this story in chapter 1, and I remember one being molecules or being microbes, mole, microscope, microscopic. Those are some key big vocabularies that were introduced at the beginning of this chapter. And what happened in chapter 1 was that they were, Keisha and the students, they were talking about their lunch and how excited Keisha was about getting to eat her sandwich that the bread is made homemade by her mom and how she's so excited to eat it. But as soon as she pulled out her sandwich, she noticed that there were a few green and blue spots on the bread. And she realized that those are molds, and having science be one of Miss Frizz's favorite subject to talk about, she was super excited and took the kids onto the magical school bus and took them on a ride. And that was when we stopped in chapter 1, was when they're all getting into the bus. They started shrinking down to be super tiny and small, getting ready to go explore the mole that was on Keisha's bread. So let's go ahead and read chapter 2 to find out what they find out about molds. Let's go ahead and jump on into chapter 2. Chapter 2. The magic school bus flew through the air. Now that we were so tiny, we could see all kinds of creatures floating around us. Some looked like round balls, others were shaped like rods or spirals. Are those microbes? Arnold asked. He looked as if he was afraid to breathe. Will they make us sick? Not all microbes make us sick, said the Frizz. The few that do have given all microbes a bad name. Most people don't know that microbes do a lot more good than harm. You mean good microbe isn't hard to find? Carlos said. Not at all, said the Frizz. Now here's a note by Wanda. Microbes help out, by Wanda. Microbes may be small, but they help in big ways. The yeast that make bread rise are microbes. A lot of the oxygen we breathe is produced by microscopic algae. Fungi are used to make cheese. They put the blue in blue cheese, and different kinds of bacteria are used to make yogurt. Microbes are used to make medicines that keep us healthy, and they even clear nuclear waste. So hooray for microbes! Microbes come in all different sizes, shapes, and colors, Miss Frizzle told us. She pulled out a poster from the glove department and unrolled it. It listed the 5 most common types of microbes. And here's a picture of the 5 most common microbes. Okay. And you can see the pictures of how they look. I couldn't believe all the funny looking shapes. These are just a few examples of microbes, the Frizz explained. Within each category, there are many more kinds of microbes. Some are made up of just one cell, like the bacteria we see in the air. Others are made of more than one cell, but are still too tiny to see without a microscope. And here's a note from Arnold. What's in a cell? By Arnold. A cell is a very small, basic unit of living matter. Living things can be made of one cell or many, many cells. Like the fungi that make up bread mold, DA said. Speaking of bread mold, Miss Frizzle turned the wheel, and the magic school bus zoomed down toward the playground. I saw my sandwich on the ground right next to the picnic table. The closer we flew, the bigger it looked. The mold was like a huge forest next to a sandy beach of bread. Miss Frizzle aimed the bus at one of the spots of mold. We plunged right in. Yuck! I definitely wasn't hungry anymore. After we landed, Miss Frizzle handed out rubber boots and safety helmets. Then we all jumped off the magic school bus right into the surface of the bread. It was spongy and tricky to walk on. The air holes in my bread were like big craters. Now, crater means that there is a slump or a hole that's been dug out. Okay. Wow, DA said. This is mold. It looked more like a forest to me. We were surrounded by tall, smooth, tree-like stalks. Each stalk blossomed into a cluster of smaller branches at the top. There were so many I couldn't begin to count them all. Yes, indeed, fabulous fungi, as far as the eye can see, Miss Frizzle announced, looking at the fungi with a smile. But what are the fungi doing? Phoebe asked. And here's a little bit of dialogue. There's a fungus among us. Actually, we're among the fungus. That is fungi. And here's a note by Carlos. Can you see the fungus among us? If you can, it isn't a microbe. Most fungi are microscopic, but some are larger, like mushrooms we find in forests and lichens that grow on trees and fall in logs. Once a single fungus is big enough to see with the naked eye, it isn't called a microbe anymore. One type of fungus called Armillaria bulbosa grows to be very big. There's a single Armillaria bulbosa in Michigan. What weighs more than 10 tons and stretches across almost 40 acres of land. It's so big that it has a nickname, the humongous fungus. And here's a little picture of the humongous fungus. They're doing what microbes do best, Phoebe. Miss Frizzle said, eating and reproducing. You mean these fungi are chowing down on Keisha's bread? Asked Ralphie. Miss Frizzle gave a content nod. Isn't it amazing? Most microbes, such as fungi and bacteria, can't make their own food. They get their food from other animals or plants, like the wheat in Keisha's bread. And when they eat, big changes take place. You mean sloppy changes? I said. My boots had started sinking into the soggy part of my sandwich. My bread is rotting. Eating with enzymes. Note by Ralphie. Fungi and bacteria produce substances called enzymes that help them eat. Enzymes break down food into simpler materials that microbes can absorb. So these fungi are changing Keisha's bread by making it rot so they can use it for food? Tim said. Precisely, the Frizz told him. I was still trying to keep my balance on that slippery stuff, but I got the picture. Rotting food was good for microbes, and bad luck for me. How did so many fungi get here so fast? I asked. My mom just made this bread last week. I didn't see a bit of mold until today. Look up, the Frizz instructed. When we did, we saw dozens of bluish-green balls attached to the top of each fungus. Those are spores, Miss Frizzle explained. And here's a note by Keisha. The Scoop on Spores by Keisha. Ever wonder what makes bread molds so fuzzy and colorful? Spores do. Bread molds can be black, blue-green, or pink, depending on the color of the spores. So here's a note. Spores are like seeds. They're carried to new places by the wind or by animals, and new fungi grow from them, the Frizz explained. So So with the help of spores, each fungus produces dozens of new fungi. Wanda said, "These microbes sure know how to get around. They work fast too," DA said, looking at her book. "Some microbes can double their numbers in less than 10 minutes. No wonder there's a lot more than just one fungus among us," Carlos joked. Notes by Tim. More microbes. Different microbes have different ways of reproducing. Fungi make spores, yeast cells form buds that develop into new yeast cells, and bacteria simply split into two. I did some math in my head. Wait a minute. If microbes reproduce that fast, wouldn't they totally overrun everything? I asked. They would if conditions for growth were perfect, said Miss Frizzle. But if their food runs out, or if it gets too crowded, or too hot, or too cold, then microbes start to die out. Phoebe took a look in DA's book. According to this, lots of packaged foods, like hot dogs and rolls, contain preservatives that slow down the growth of microbes and keep food from spoiling, she said. But homemade foods, like your mom's bread, don't have preservatives. Note by Arnold. Where do microbes live? Most microbes grow best where it's moist and dark. They don't like it too hot or too cold. That's why we refrigerate some foods. The cold air inside the refrigerator slows down microbes, but microbes do like it sweet. Sugar helps microbes to reproduce faster. Substances with acid in them, like lemon juice and vinegar used for pickling vegetables, make it harder for microbes to grow. So that's why it's a moldy mess, I said. All of a sudden, everything started shaking. Whoa! I grabbed at the tubular stalks of fungi to keep from falling. Earthquake! Arnold cried. Relax, it's just the 4th grade kids cleaning up, said Tim. The 4th graders in our school had started a compost heap and recycling program. They towered over us as they collected trash and food scraps from the playground. We were so tiny they looked like skyscrapers. No bigger, like huge mountains. Every time one of the kids took a step, the ground trembled like crazy. I never knew exploring microbes would be such a shaky experience, Ralphie said. Don't look now, but this could become a squishy experiment soon, said Phoebe. Phoebe pointed toward a 4th grade girl who was walking toward us. The girl wore gloves and was busy dropping Dee's orange peel into her bag of food scraps. She didn't seem to notice my sandwich lying on the ground in front of her, with all of us on it. We could see her enormous foot coming toward us. Our luck is running out, guys, I cried. The magic school bus is about to turn into the magic pancake. Dun dun dun. And that completes chapter 2 for us. And next will be chapter 3, so that means my next video will be on chapter 3. Now, I want you to take a moment to think about what's going on in the story so far, and I want you to share with a friend, a parent, your brother or sister, maybe even a stuffed animal or your pet, your favorite part so far, one or two things that you've learned so far from this story, and share out who the characters are, where it's happening, the setting of the story. I hope you guys are enjoying the story so far as much as I am, and I hope to see you guys again in chapter 3. So stay tuned and let's continue to read and find out what's going to happen next in this story. You guys take great care. Remember to wash your hands, sneeze and cough into your elbows, and stay safe, stay home, and I will talk to you guys and see you guys soon. Miss you guys so much. Take good care. Bye.